Hey guys, this is God of Politics. Welcome back to a brand new video. But before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter, that is linked down in the description and on my channel page, and join the Discord that is linked down in the description. But today's video is going to be about the Georgia Senate elections for the 2020 election. There are actually two Senate elections. We had Joni Isakson retire at the end of 2019. Then the Governor Brian Kemp appointed Kelly Loeffler to be the senator for the remainder of the year until there was an election. She is now running for that election. And also David Perdue is normally up for re-election as well. So we're going to be talking about both of those elections here. And do the Democrats have an upset brewing here in the state here? Is this something that they can actually go after, or is it something that is fool's gold? Is it something that they really should not invest too much in and can't go after? So first, there's an article here from the New York Times saying White House worries about Kelly Loeffler's Senate prospects in Georgia. So as many of you probably know, first of all, Kelly Loeffler was appointed. She was a financial executive. Her husband is the head of the New York Stock Exchange. So she was appointed to the Senate seat by the governor, and she had a scandal. She had an insider trading scandal, and this seems to have really hurt her chances in terms of winning the, I guess you could call it primary or the jungle primary, whatever you want to call it. It's not really primary, but it's on election day, so. And it's actually hurt Kelly Loeffler's campaign a lot. And President Trump's actually been very worried about this. It says President Trump's advisors are increasingly concerned about Kelly Loeffler's campaign in Georgia, a newly competitive state where the president's own poll numbers have tightened against former Vice President Joe Biden, according to People Brief on the discussion. So first of all, I did talk about how Georgia could be the dark horse of 2020, how there's many people underestimating how well Democrats could do in this state, and I think that that's right. Joe Biden might do better than a lot of people think. And could this translate to the Senate results? Well, it says here President Trump's advisors are quite worried about that. And so, yes, there was a scandal with Kelly Loeffler about her stock trade she made soon after being briefed about the threat of the coronavirus. She's denied any wrongdoing, and as Mr. Trump, in two recent Republican polls, has found himself in a statistical dead heat with Mr. Biden in a state the president won in 2016. He won the state by around 5.5 percentage points, so it'd be pretty big if he was not able to win the state as comfortably as he did in 2016. And so what there probably is going to be for the special election is there's going to be a runoff election. So what happens in the state of Georgia is there's a normal election on November 3rd this year where you have multiple candidates running, multiple on the Democratic side, multiple on the Republican side, and if nobody reaches 50%, the top two candidates go to a runoff election, and then the runoff election, what happens in the runoff election is you have two candidates, and it's just head-to-head who wins in that election. That runoff is held sometime in January. I think it's January 5th. There's a runoff for the election on January 5th, which is going to be very interesting in terms of how the Senate can be decided on January 5th. We'll talk about that in a moment. But people are worried, especially Trump and his advisors are worried about Mr. Kelly Loeffler's stock trades. They're worried about her prospects in terms of 2020. Can she win again? That's really something that people are starting to worry about. But if we look at this also, we can see how the Trump effect, this is another article by the New York Times, how the Trump effect could lift Democratic Senate candidates. Donald Trump, the people he's endorsed haven't actually done too well. If you compare it back to Obama, Obama really was not the best in terms of campaigning, getting out and campaigning for people. That's why he got wiped out in the 2010 midterms. Part of the reason he got wiped out in the 2010 midterms and the 2014 midterms, and how he didn't really help down ballot candidates. And obviously, your talks about Senator Doug Jones. Doug Jones is not going to win. He's probably going to lose by a safe margin to most likely Tommy Tuberville. After everything that happened last night, Donald Trump tweeted out again his support for Tommy Tuberville. Jeff Sessions is not happy about that. And so what the GOP's done, it's one of the things they've done. They've tried to tighten the ranks in their electorate. So they got around 40% of the electorate. You see, Donald Trump really has not dropped below 40% approval rating in really many polls at all, especially now when he's a bit more popular here. But really, they haven't been able to expand on their base. The reason they won in 2016 was due to the fact that Hillary Clinton was so unpopular that those undecided voters you had broke so heavily to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump endorsing these down ballot candidates is really not necessarily going to help those down ballot candidates, because those down ballot candidates may be in districts that do not approve of the president as much. And if we're talking about Alabama, obviously Donald Trump's endorsement will help there. But if we're talking about a swing district in a suburban area and Donald Trump goes out and endorses the Republican candidate, believe it or not, that could help them. And again, this talks about turnout here, how turnout is really going to matter here. And it says with a polarized electorate, turnout matters. And so, there's a lot of things that are going to matter in this election, but turnout is one of the most important things. And if Donald Trump cannot enthuse undecided voters to come onto his side, then he's not going to be able to win the election. But if we're talking about the actual, let's kind of just talk about the Trump effect, how Trump's endorsements and things help or hurt candidates, and whether he makes a play or an endorsement in the state of Georgia could actually hurt it, because Georgia is a state that trended to the Democratic column in 2016, almost went blue in the governor election in 2018 here. And so now we're looking at a 2020 election that is actually going to be surprisingly competitive. So we're looking at first the special election here. We can see there's multiple candidates running. On the Republican side, it's either going to be Doug Collins or Kelly Loeffler. And for the Democratic side, it's either going to be Raphael Warnock or Ed Tarver here. Ed Tarver is an attorney, and he's an attorney for the Southern District of Georgia and a former state senator. Raphael Warnock is a reverend and pastor of the Ebenezer Baptist Church here. And so that's going to, if we look at the polling here, we can actually see there used to be a prospect that the Democrats could be locked out of this primary here. And what locked out means is that the two Republicans are the ones that come first and second. Either Doug Collins comes first, Kelly Loeffler comes second, or Kelly Loeffler comes first, Doug Collins comes second. That would mean that there would be a runoff election on January 5th. And the runoff election would be between two Republican candidates. That would be very worrying for Democrats, but now it's looking less likely to happen here. We can see that most of the polling here is by a Republican internal poll called Battleground Connect. And we can see they kind of did it weekly here up in March, and it used to show Doug Collins having quite an edge here, but they haven't done much of those pollings yet. We had a new Civics poll that showed Raphael Warnock at 18% here, which is 6% ahead of Kelly Loeffler, who is actually in fourth place. So this makes it look like the Democrats being locked out is going to be less likely. For the predictions here from the so-called experts, because the Cook Political Report, Salvador's Cristobal, Daily Kos, Politico, and Niskanen all put it at lean, and Inside Elections puts it at likely. Or I would honestly put it at lean for this moment, but again, that could easily change. It could be likely, it could be tilt, to be honest. It could even go blue. You never know. As for the normal election, this is the one with David Perdue versus most likely going to be Jon Ossoff. And an interesting thing here, if you look at the 2008 election results, you can see that there was a runoff here. You see that Saxby Chambliss almost got the 50% that he needed in the general election. He got 49.8% to 46.8%. When the runoff happened, he ended up winning by 15 points. In the 2014 result, a Republican wave year, David Perdue only won by just under 8 percentage points. And this is a state that's trended heavily to the Democratic column. This is a state that went to Donald Trump by 5.5 percentage points, went to Mitt Romney by around 8 percentage points. And David Perdue didn't actually do much better than Mitt Romney did in the state of Georgia, which shows that even in a Republican wave year, the trends are still prevalent. If we're looking at the Democratic side here, we can see Jon Ossoff is actually, he's not the best candidate, but he seems like he could be a good candidate for this district. We've actually seen some polling that has been quite favorable to the Democrats from the state. We actually have, inside elections also, but this is that likely are all the other ones that had it lean. For the special elections have it lean, except for Salvador's Cristobal, which puts it at likely. I used to say that the non-special election was actually going to be not as close as the special election, but now, I'm kind of reconsidering that. This is going to be a normal election. It's going to be decided on November 3rd, no matter what, because it's just a Republican versus Democrat kind of thing. And if we're looking at the polling here, we can actually see that there's a new poll that came out, a Civics Daily Kos poll that showed Jon Ossoff beating David Perdue by 2 percentage points. And while you have to take this with a grain of salt because, it is an early poll, did have a lot of registered voters. The demographics, the party ID, the age were pretty much spot on if you look at it, if you look at the polling data. And so this should be very worrying for Republicans here, because this is a district that they really do not want to lose. And even the Republican internal polls that are pretty good for Republicans only showed, for example, public opinion strategy, the Republican internal poll only showed David Perdue winning by 2 percentage points with 15% undecided vote. Another one had David Perdue winning by 5 percentage points with 13% undecided vote, and one had him winning by 6 with 16% undecided vote. And we can actually see there's a lot more less undecided vote than there was before, and it's shown that it's still going to be a close race. And if we're looking at it on the YAPMS map here, we can actually see that it's going to be quite an interesting prospect. So I put in all the likely, lean, and safe states. I haven't put in the tilt states, but there's a very realistic scenario that, say, Cal Cunningham beats Thom Tillis in North Carolina and Susan Collins wins in Maine. Then you're at 49-49. Say that, for example, David Perdue wins the non-special election by a lean margin. Then it comes down, 50-49. Nobody's really gotten the majority left because, assuming this scenario Biden's won, it all comes down to the state of Georgia here. You have a special election here for the state of Georgia with two candidates, probably going to be Matt Lieberman or Raphael Warnock versus Doug Collins here. And that's a very interesting thing because the Senate majority could be decided on January 5th, just before a new president will be sworn in, either Biden or Donald Trump. And so this is a very interesting thing to look at, because in a best case scenario, they win these elections, they win Maine again. They even pull off a victory in Arizona there at 53 seats, and that would be a very good scenario for them. But Republicans should be worried about their Senate majority. That's kind of what I wanted to point out in this video here. But this is starting with the analysis of the state of Georgia, which actually is one of the most interesting states for the Senate this year. It's going to be more important than people think. Again, I think this is going to be a dark horse, not just for the presidential race, but for the Senate race as well. So thank you all for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter, link down in the description and on my channel page, and join the Discord. So thank you all for watching, guys, and I will see you guys later.